There comes a point when a man doesn't chase anymore, not out of pride, but out of peace. Sometimes she lets you go thinking you'll be stuck in emotional limbo, checking on her, reminiscing, maybe waiting for her to come back. But when you don't, when you let go too, that's when it hits her differently. And that's what this video is about. The quiet power of a man who walks away with grace, not games. The kind of strength that Stoic philosophy teaches. Not to escape emotion, but to master it. Let's talk about what really happens when you let go, and why it changes everything. Number 1. She thought you'd wait. She assumed you'd stay emotionally available even after she ended things. Maybe you wouldn't text every day, but you'd still be watching her stories, liking a post here and there, responding if she reached out. She thought you'd remain emotionally parked, just outside her life, waiting for an opening. But you didn't. You respected her decision. You didn't resist, you didn't plead, you didn't try to convince her to change her mind. You simply accepted it. Not out of weakness, but out of inner strength. This is Stoicism in action, understanding what's in your control and calmly releasing what's not. She ended it. You let it end. Most men try to hold on, even subtly, just to keep a thread of connection alive. They answer late-night texts. They watch every story, hoping she'll notice. They stay emotionally available, even when she's no longer emotionally committed. But not you. You didn't leave the door half open. You closed it. Gently, quietly, fully. That's what startled her, because she didn't expect you to let go. She expected distance, but not disappearance. Silence, but not stillness. Detachment, but not discipline. She underestimated your ability to move on without bitterness. And that calm detachment, that's rare, that's powerful. Let me give you an example. A guy named Leo got dumped by someone he truly cared about. She told him, "I need space." So he gave her space, but more than she expected. He didn't text her back, didn't watch her stories, didn't try to meet her halfway. Weeks later, she messaged him, "I thought we could still be friends." Leo didn't even get emotional. He simply replied, "I respect your decision, and I'm moving forward with mine." That one sentence hit her harder than 1,000 words could have. Why? Because Leo showed emotional control. He didn't try to get her back. He reclaimed his peace. That's what Stoics do. We don't beg for love. We don't chase ghosts. We focus on what's real, and if someone chooses to walk away, we let them. Now she's the one wondering what happened to the version of you who'd always be there. She checks her phone more often than she admits. She scrolls to see if you've watched her stories. She starts to feel the discomfort of your absence because she thought you'd be waiting. And now she realizes you're not. You didn't just walk away, you evolved. You didn't disappear to hurt her. You disappeared to heal yourself. And in that silence, she feels your strength louder than any words you could have spoken. Number 2. You chose self-respect over closure. She may have expected you to reach out, to ask for closure, or to get clarity about why things ended. But you didn't. You stayed silent, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. She might have waited for that late-night message, that "can we talk?" or even a final attempt to untangle the mess. But you knew something deeper. Real peace doesn't come from someone else's mouth. It comes from your own acceptance. You see, a Stoic understands that closure isn't always a neat, packaged explanation. It's not about getting her to confess something or waiting for those perfect words that magically erase the pain. Closure isn't something she gives you. It's something you give yourself. It's the moment you stop pouring your energy into a wound that's already taught you enough. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." Wanting closure from someone who already left? That craving only keeps you tied to what hurt you. But when you let go of that need, when you stop seeking answers outside and turn inward, you take your power back. That's what you did. You didn't chase her words or her validation. You chose stillness, clarity, and peace from within. What would reaching out have really changed? More confusion? More of the same push and pull? You already had all the information you needed. Her actions spoke clearly. And instead of reacting emotionally, you responded like a man who values his dignity. You chose not to give someone else the power to decide when you get to heal. That's strength. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. You can either keep shouting into the void, hoping for an echo, or you can turn around and walk your own path. You chose to walk. And whether she realizes it now or not, your silence was the loudest message you could have sent. You showed her what most men are afraid to do. Cut the cord without drama, without bitterness, and without begging for closure that, let's be honest, might never have come. By doing that, you didn't just protect your peace, you elevated your worth. You reminded yourself that some chapters don't need a final paragraph. They just need to end. And that's what makes you different. Stoic, steady, resilient. Now take a moment and really sit with this. What did this experience teach you about your own strength, your own boundaries, and what you truly deserve? Reflection is a powerful tool, and sharing your insight might help someone else who's walking a similar path. Drop your thoughts in the comments, or if you just want to leave something simple, type, "I choose peace over chaos." Let's build a space where growth, not resentment, leads the way. Number 3, you didn't try to convince her. You didn't try to prove your worth. You didn't list all the things you brought to the relationship. You didn't send long texts explaining why she made a mistake. Instead, you embodied your value through how you handled the situation. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's exactly what you did. You didn't try to argue your case like it was a courtroom drama. You didn't chase after her to remind her of your loyalty, your kindness, your efforts. You didn't try to rewind time with a desperate message or a last-minute apology for things you didn't even do wrong. No, your silence became your statement. A man who knows who he is doesn't plead to be seen. He lets his actions, and sometimes his absence, speak for him. That's what real Stoicism looks like. Remaining grounded while everything around you stirs with emotion. While others might lose themselves trying to win someone back, you stayed composed. You didn't let your emotions hijack your dignity. You didn't trade your peace of mind for temporary attention. Instead, you chose the higher path, the harder path, the one that requires strength, not just in holding on, but in letting go with grace. Maybe she thought you'd fold. Maybe she expected you to show up at her door or send a long message about how much she meant to you. But when you didn't, when you chose stillness over noise, principle over pride, it likely made her pause, because that kind of self-respect is rare, and rare things are hard to forget. You didn't have to announce your value, you lived it. You kept your head high. You focused on your path. You didn't just move on, you moved forward, with intention. And trust me, that's the kind of thing that lingers in someone's mind. It's not about making her regret her decision. It's about staying loyal to your standards, your peace, your future. That quiet confidence you showed, that wasn't weakness. That was power. The kind of power that doesn't need to chase. the kind of power that speaks without raising its voice. And in a world full of noise, that silence is unforgettable. Number 4. You let her feel the absence. Most people keep one foot in the door after a breakup. A like here, a comment there, maybe a "hope you're doing okay" message a few weeks later. But you didn't do any of that. You let the space be the space. And for the first time, she felt the full weight of what life is like without you. That's not silence out of bitterness. That's not emotional withdrawal to manipulate. It's strength, it's restraint, it's stoicism in action. You didn't try to maintain her comfort while sacrificing your own peace. You didn't try to leave little breadcrumbs in her world, hoping she'd follow them back. You chose to disappear with quiet dignity. Imagine her scrolling late at night, half expecting your name to pop up. A like, a DM, anything, but nothing comes. And in that silence, something happens. She starts to wonder if maybe you've really moved on. She starts to question if she ever had as much power over your heart as she thought. That doubt, that uncertainty, it echoes louder than any words ever could. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this case, the best response isn't to react. It's to remain centered, disciplined, and unmoved. You're not playing a game. You're just not clinging anymore. And that absence, that complete withdrawal from her emotional orbit, it's confronting, it's confusing, and deep down, it's magnetic. She let go assuming you'd linger, that you'd wait in the shadows for her to turn back. But instead, you left, not dramatically, not loudly, just completely. And that single decision shifted the power in ways she never expected. Real strength isn't shown in chasing or convincing someone to miss you. It's shown in your ability to walk away without resentment and mean it. Take a breath and think about what this really means, not just for her, but for you. Choosing peace over proving a point, choosing dignity over desperation. That's not just healing, that's transformation. If this perspective made you pause or helped you see your situation differently, drop a comment and share your thoughts. Or just leave this in the comments. I'm not looking back. Let's see how many of us are walking that higher path together. Number 5. You stopped romanticizing the past. It's tempting to replay the best moments, to miss the good times and ignore the reasons things ended. That smile she had when she laughed at your dumb jokes. The way her eyes softened when she looked at you like you were her safe place. The late-night talks, the spontaneous road trips, the comfort of simply knowing someone was there. Those memories have a way of sneaking in when you're alone with your thoughts, don't they? And for a brief second, they can make you question everything. Make you wonder if you gave up something special. But you resisted that urge. You didn't let nostalgia hijack your mind and rewrite the past. You didn't let your heart trick you into chasing a version of her that only existed in the best moments. You stood firm. You saw it for what it truly was. Good, yes, but also flawed, imperfect, incomplete. The Stoics have a name for that kind of clarity: amor fati. It means love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but embracing it, even the painful parts, even the moments that crack your chest open. Because pain teaches. It sharpens you. And when you live with that kind of acceptance, you stop resisting life. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" And instead begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You didn't sugarcoat the ending. You didn't try to repaint it with colors that weren't true. You respected it. You respected yourself enough not to dwell in illusions. That emotional honesty, that willingness to feel everything without getting consumed by it, that's what gave you the strength to move forward without getting trapped in a loop of what ifs and what used to be. It's easy to romanticize the past when you're standing in the pain of the present, but you chose something different. You chose reality over fantasy, truth over comfort. And that kind of choice? That's the beginning of real healing. Because the truth is, growth doesn't always feel good. Closure isn't always pretty. But when you choose to love your fate, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it hurts, you step into something powerful. You stop being a prisoner of the past and start becoming the architect of your future. So keep going. Keep your heart open, but your eyes clear. The strength you showed in letting go, that's what makes you unshakable. Number 6. You turned the pain into power. Rejection hurts. No man is immune to that. But instead of numbing the pain or drowning in it, you used it. You turned it into fuel. You trained harder. You focused more. You leveled up quietly. And that's what separates men who grow from men who crumble. Most people treat rejection like a wall, something they crash into. But you treated it like a mirror, a moment of reflection. You didn't run from the sting. You didn't distract yourself with meaningless hookups or drown your thoughts in alcohol or noise. You sat with the pain. You let it speak. And in that silence, you listened, not to the world, not to her, but to yourself. The Stoics believed that every hardship is an opportunity. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." That heartbreak, that cold silence she left you in, it was your training ground. It was the gym for your soul. You didn't beg for closure, you became the closure. You didn't ask for validation, you earned it from within. You started showing up differently, not to prove anything to her, but because you had something to prove to yourself. You became more intentional. You stopped wasting time on people who were never really for you. Your focus sharpened. Your presence deepened. And slowly, piece by piece, you started rebuilding. But this time, as the man you were meant to be. And here's the part she didn't expect. She thought you'd be emotionally wrecked. She thought you'd break. Maybe she thought she'd keep living in your head, rent-free. But instead, you went silent. Not out of bitterness, but out of discipline. You didn't disappear to get her attention. You disappeared to get your life in order. Now, if she looks back, she sees a version of you she no longer has access to. Not because you're playing games, but because you outgrew the version of yourself who chased her. You became a man of calm power, a man who values peace over chaos, purpose over drama. That transformation, it doesn't need to be shouted. It's felt, in your energy, in your presence, in how you carry yourself now. Rejection hurt, but you didn't let it define you. You let it refine you. If you've made it this far, it means something in this message hit home. Maybe you've been through that kind of pain. Maybe you're in it right now. But what matters most is what you do with it. Take a moment to reflect on your own growth, your own silence, your own strength. And if you feel called to share, drop your thoughts in the comments, or just leave this sentence. She lost me the moment I found myself. That way, I'll know you're one of the few men who didn't let pain break them, but used it to become unshakable. Number 7. You focused on the inner citadel. Rather than seeking validation from the outside, through her attention or someone new, you turned inward. You worked on your mindset, your habits, your routines. The Stoics talked about building an inner citadel, a fortress inside you that no one can shake. That's where you went. You didn't hide. You rebuilt. I know it's tempting to chase after closure, or to keep checking if she's watching your stories, if she still cares, if she regrets. But you knew deep down that none of that would bring peace. So instead, you started asking harder questions. Who am I without her? What have I been avoiding? What kind of man do I want to become? Those questions aren't easy, but that's the exact path the Stoics point to. The path of looking within, facing discomfort, and choosing growth over distraction. You started waking up earlier, not because anyone was watching, but because discipline became your new form of self-respect. You trained your body, not for her to notice, but because it reminded you that you're still in control of something. You journaled your thoughts, tracked your triggers, started reading more, maybe even returned to old passions you had forgotten. Slowly, you realized, I am not broken. I was just misaligned. And here's the thing. When you stop orbiting around someone else's presence and instead become the center of your own world, you change the energy entirely. The more peace you found internally, the less power she had externally. Her silence? It didn't sting the same. Her distance? It became space for your growth. That shift in focus is where real healing begins. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do." That's what you lived. You stopped performing, stopped chasing, stopped explaining yourself. You just moved forward, quietly. And in that silence, you discovered your strength. You didn't need her to come back to feel whole. You came back to yourself, and that was enough. Number 8, you didn't watch her every move. No checking her Instagram stories. No late-night scrolling through her posts. No subtle stalking under fake profiles. No deciphering song lyrics or over-analyzing her new selfies, wondering if they're meant for you. You let her go, fully, not halfway, not with one foot in and one eye still watching. You didn't pretend it was harmless curiosity. You didn't try to convince yourself that staying aware of her life somehow meant you were just being chill. You knew better. You gave her the gift of complete distance, not out of spite, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. And make no mistake, that kind of detachment isn't easy. It takes courage to cut the cord quietly, to walk away without leaving a breadcrumb trail for her to follow back. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And you chose freedom, not the illusion of it, the real thing. You didn't ghost her, you didn't block her in rage. You simply stepped away and refused to orbit her world any longer. Most people say they've moved on, but their behavior screams otherwise. They watch, they wait, they refresh. They're stuck in the emotional waiting room, hoping for a signal, a post, a quote, a clue. And while they convince themselves it's harmless, all they're doing is feeding old wounds, staying emotionally tied to someone who's no longer walking beside them. But you took the Stoic path. You didn't just leave physically, you released her mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You understood what Epictetus taught. We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. And so, you stopped creating meaning out of meaningless posts. You stopped trying to decode silence or read between digital lines. You returned to yourself, to your breath, to your life. You stopped asking, "What is she doing?" and started asking, "What am I becoming?" This isn't about being cold. It's not about playing games or trying to make her wonder. It's about discipline, about putting your peace above your pride. The Stoics remind us, focus only on what you can control. You can't control if she posts a picture with someone else. You can't control her choices, her stories, or her timeline. But you can control your reaction. You can control where your attention goes. And when you choose not to look, you choose freedom. You choose strength. You choose yourself. Think about it. The moment you check her page and see something unexpected, your mind starts spinning. You start comparing, wondering, doubting. You let her energy back into your life without her saying a single word. But when you don't check, when you resist that temptation, you stay in power. You stay stoic. You stay unshaken. And here's the irony. That silence, that invisibility, it echoes. While others leave obvious trails, your absence becomes impossible to ignore. You didn't disappear to make her miss you. You just stopped needing her attention to validate your worth. And that changes the dynamic. That makes her wonder, not what you're doing, but who you're becoming. That quiet strength? It's rare, and it's attractive in the most unexpected way. So stay on that path, brother. Keep building your life, not in reaction to her, but in devotion to your own growth. Keep showing up for yourself, not to prove a point, but because you finally realized that you are the point. The man who can walk away and never look back, that man isn't cold. He's centered. And in a world full of people craving attention, your indifference becomes your edge. That kind of man? He's not to be played with. He's not a maybe. He's the one that got real. And eventually, she'll know it too. Number 9. You became the man she wasn't ready for. You didn't become bitter. You became better. You didn't allow pain to poison your spirit or rejection to warp your self-worth. Instead, you evolved. You didn't rise to prove a point to her or to show the world what it lost. You rose because your journey demanded more from you. Because life whispered, "There's more in you," and you listened. You didn't sit in resentment, replaying the past like a broken record, hoping for an apology or closure that was never coming. You turned inward. You met yourself in the silence, faced the parts of you that were once afraid to be alone, and you chose a different path, the path of becoming. You raised your standards, not just in who you let into your heart, but in how you move through the world. You stopped entertaining half-efforts, lukewarm intentions, and shallow attention. You stopped trying to explain your value to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. Instead, you poured your energy into your purpose, the thing that gives your life meaning, the thing that lights you up when no one's watching. You got back in the gym, not just to build your body, but to strengthen your mind. You built discipline, not for admiration, but for inner peace, for the kind of confidence that isn't loud, but unshakable. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You stopped chasing applause and started pursuing virtue. You became rooted in your values. Your actions grew quieter but deeper, less for show, more for substance. You stopped chasing people who made you question your worth, and instead chased the man you were meant to become. Through that quiet dedication, you transformed into someone who no longer craves attention, but commands respect. A man who doesn't settle for surface-level sparks, but who now requires a soul-level connection. Depth over drama, truth over temptation. And maybe, just maybe, she'll look back one day. She might scroll through old photos, revisit the memory of your voice, or stumble on a reminder of what once was. But what she won't fully grasp is what she missed. Not just the man who loved her, but the man you became after her. She knew the early version of you, the man still finding his footing. But she missed the transformation, the silent, stoic evolution that took place when you chose growth over grief, purpose over pain, and legacy over longing. That's the real power of healing with intention. You didn't move forward to make her jealous or spark her regret. You did it because your soul demanded it, because your higher self refused to stay in places where it no longer fit. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You were trying to ascend. And now, you walk differently. Not because life is perfect, but because you carry the quiet strength of a man who rebuilt. You didn't crumble under the weight of heartbreak. You rose above it. You didn't just move on. You leveled up. You became better, not bitter. And that is what makes all the difference. Number 10. You let go because you loved yourself more. At the core of it all, you let go not to punish her, not to teach her a lesson, but because you finally chose yourself. You chose your peace, your mental clarity, your self-worth. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you realized that holding on was costing you more than letting go ever would. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't about proving a point. It was about recognizing that your soul was tired of the back and forth, tired of wondering where you stood, tired of the silent battles you were fighting in your own mind while pretending everything was fine. A Stoic man doesn't need to be cold to move on. He doesn't need to lash out or seek revenge. He simply steps back, reflects, and asks himself, is this still in line with who I'm becoming? And if the answer is no, he releases it, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Imagine standing at the edge of a storm. You can either keep stepping into the chaos, trying to calm it with your presence, or you can step away and walk toward the stillness that you've been craving. Letting go is choosing the stillness. There was a time you might have waited for her to change, to choose you, to show up differently. But now you understand that love should never feel like chasing. So you stopped running towards someone who kept walking away. You chose the path of self-respect, the kind that doesn't need an announcement. Just action. Quiet, calm, decisive action. When a man truly begins to love himself, he no longer clings to people who confuse him. He doesn't beg for clarity. He becomes the clarity. And in that still, grounded energy, he stops being the man who waits and starts being the man who leads. First himself, then everything else. That's when he becomes unstoppable. Not because he's louder, colder, or more distant, but because he's finally aligned, rooted, unshakable. And ironically, it's in that silence, in that strength, where she might feel your absence the loudest. Not because you wanted to hurt her, but because you finally stopped hurting yourself. And there it is. When you let go, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, something shifts. You stop waiting, you stop chasing, and you start rising. That's not weakness. That's not bitterness. That's clarity. That's power. That's you stepping fully into the man you were meant to become. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, am I holding on to something that's holding me back? And more importantly, what kind of man do I want to be on the other side of this pain? Because here's the truth. When you let go of what's no longer meant for you, you create space for what is. When you stop chasing the past, you begin building a future. And when you choose peace over pride, clarity over closure, and growth over grief, you don't just move on, you level up. This journey isn't about proving anything to her. It's about proving to yourself that you have the discipline to walk away with grace, the courage to sit with your emotions, and the wisdom to protect your energy. That's Stoicism in action. If this message hit home, let me know in the comments. What part spoke to you the most? What moment in your journey made you realize it was time to choose yourself? Hit that like button if this video gave you strength. Drop a comment. Your story might help another man find his footing. And don't forget to check out the recommended videos on screen now. They dive even deeper into Stoicism, emotional mastery, and how to reclaim your power after heartbreak. Thanks for watching. Stay grounded, stay unshakable,